up to Grandpa. Who saw that plot coming? Anybody? So if you haven't been with us the last couple of weeks, somehow we've got into foreign Christmas commercials to set up sermons. And I watched that and I thought, man, that is good. It's easy to think we have another year. It's easy to let everything just, hey, you know what? I can't do this. I can't do that. And think of that video to, now, Grandpa went way overboard, way over the top there, too much. But to fake his own death, to bring his family, to have the right perspective, sometimes we lose perspective. So welcome to church, everybody. We got a week coming. Apparently here in East Tennessee, we might have a little bit of snow. I don't think there's going to be any snow because we have Christmas with family services. Me and God are tighter than you and God are. So I'm praying that doesn't happen. But who thinks we're going to get some snow? Let's see some hands. Who's hoping we get some snow? Shame on you guys. Shame on you guys. We don't want that. It's going to be cold either way. We got people watching everywhere this morning. Amanda in Florida. It's going to be cold in Florida next week. Dawn in Indiana. Darlene in Wisconsin. Lisa, Illinois. Mary, Georgia. Jackie in California. Hey, how are you? Kevin, South Carolina. The Boyers in Michigan. Ooh, it's probably cold up there. Pat, Ed, and Debbie in Missouri. We got Dawn watching in Amsterdam this morning. We had Daryl watching in Japan last night. So Rick and Lisa, where are you from Virginia? You're in the room, typically watching. Where are you? How are you guys? Welcome to church. Welcome to be here live. It's awesome. Got a lot of people watching. So once again, Sevierville, give it up for our online family this morning. I did not say Greensboro. We're not locking in with our Greensboro family this morning. We have a Greensboro, North Carolina campus. I'll be there tonight. Pray for me. I leave after the second service. We go to Greensboro to kick off Christmas with Family Week with them. We have church tonight at 6 o'clock, so it's going to be a good day. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Y'all ready to do some push-ups this morning? Everybody, get out of your seat. No, we won't do those. Let's do this. Stand up, if you will. Find 3 people you didn't come with and tell them how good it is to be in church already. Can we do that this morning? You guys can be seated. I'm just looking at the way above average people. Turn to somebody you don't know and go, man, you're good looking. Can you do that? Oh, that's creepy, weird. I'm looking at my wife back there. Hello, honey. My wife's on the stairwell. Love you so much. You're beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. Get to talk about you today. It's going to be good. If you have your Bibles, turn to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 8. We're going to land there in the main kind of text this morning. We're in a series, and if you're visiting with us, I know we've got visitors today. Thanks for coming to church. We're in a Christmas series. We typically do Christmas series. Lots of churches do. It's the last month of the year. We're in it to win it when it comes to Christmas. Christmas is important, especially when we think about it in the right perspective and what it can teach us and our faith can grow. Christmas is a lot, and so that's my little premise this year is this little 4-week series, which we close down next week. And don't miss next week. It's going to be really good. Christmas is complicated. We talked about that week 1. We always talk about that. Christmas has definitely gotten complicated through the years. Christmas, though, is calling. Ready or not, it's here. Will we embrace it? Week 2, we talked about Christmas's traditions. But it also needs to be more than that. It needs to be treasured for the right reasons. So this week, what is Christmas a time for? That's what I named the message. And here's my point. Ready? Christmas is a time. Let's see if y'all, this is mind-blowing. This is why you have me. You've never thought of this at Christmas. Ever. Christmas is a time for getting and giving. I know you never thought. You're like, I've never. Brent, I think that's what I think. I think that's Christmas. I think we love to. Who likes to get something this year? Anybody like to get a present? Wow. People are like, I don't want to raise my hand. I feel a little vain there. I like to get something. I've already got my gift. I told y'all a couple weeks ago, my kids ordered me a Blackstone griddle that I had to pay $500 for. It didn't come up to the whole amount. I've already put that thing together. I've already had smash burgers on it. I love it. But Christmas is also a time for giving. So again, as a church, what you guys did this season is mind-blowing to me. 300 children and more than ever teenagers in our church, connected to our church, organizations connected in our community, we helped 300 children and teenagers have a significant Christmas. 4 significant gifts per child. And we're not talking just socks and underwear. And what we saw last week, just distributing all the gifts to parents and families that were going to struggle to have Christmas with their children and teenagers. We had a chance to give and make that happen. So God gets the credit. We do the work. Thank you for that. Christmas it can be so good if we gain the right perspective, but yet Christmas is also full of, I think, empty promises. So I'll start with a story. It's hard to imagine, true story, this is a crazy story. It's hard to imagine the excitement that Nora Gill felt over being the grand prize winner of a contest called 100 Grand. It was a contest run by a Lexington, Kentucky radio station, WLTO in Lexington. Nora Gill had to be a specific caller at a specific time, so she sat on the phone for over 10 hours to win this contest. She won 100 grand. She was so excited. She was a single mom of 3 children. When she found out she was the grand prize winner, the night before she would go down to the radio station to collect her grand prize. True story, she sat with her 3 children, and they talked about what they would do with their winnings. The mother promised her 3 children, number 1, kids, we're getting a minivan. We have a small car. I would love to drive you and your friends to soccer practice and to cheerleading practice. It would be great. So we're going to get a minivan, number 1. Number 2, we're going to go shopping. We're going to shop till we drop. It's been a struggle financially for us, and the kids knew that, but we're going to go. We're going to have a great time shopping. We're going to get all the things that we need, but some things that we want. Love that kind of shopping. And then 3rd, it sounds like Clark Griswold, if there's enough left over. She said, we're going to put a down payment on a house, and we're going to have a house with a backyard, and we can have a swing set. The next day, she was up early. She arose to the radio station before anybody else was at the radio station. She beat everybody to the radio station. The receptionist opened the door. She walked in. She said, my name is Nora Gill. I'm the grand prize winner. The receptionist looked a little perplexed as Nora goes, I'm just kind of here to collect my check. I don't know where to get my $100,000. And the receptionist looked a little puzzled. She goes, well, I'll have to go get management. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Nora was a little concerned. And she comes back. The receptionist said, Nora, you'll need to come back after lunch. There's no one here that can answer the questions. So by the time she got home, the station manager left her a voicemail on her phone and said, Nora, thank you for coming down. Yes, you are the winner of our 100 grand contest, but you did not win $100,000. You won a year's supply of Nestle's 100 grand candy bars. True story. Nora Gill sued the radio station for deceptive advertising. She said, who would have waited on the phone for 10 hours for a bunch of candy bars? She retained an attorney, and when she retained an attorney, the day she put the lawsuit in, the station manager called her and offered her $5,000 cash for the misunderstanding. Nora Gill said, I'll take that plus $95,000 more. And they declined, so Nora Gill and her attorney went to court, and her attorney argued, saying this was a shoddy promotion by a radio station that was just looking to drum up some business. They not only did not come through with their promise, but they never intended to in the first place. People ask me, did she win the lawsuit? I don't know. I've pulled it up. I've Googled it. I'm not exactly sure. It happened, I think, in 2005. So you've got a little research to do this afternoon. Nora Gill. So what I'll say is this. We live in a world of empty promises. Lots of things have been promised to us through the years by everybody. Teens have been promised things by parents. We've been promised things by employers. We've been promised by lots of things. Our culture promises us, if you just have this, life will be good. And yet when too many promises are not coming through in our life, we get cynical, we get jaded. We're like, I just don't know if this is what it's cracked up to be. That is Christmas in our world. Our world, if you watch any television, you watch any advertising, you see everything online, it's, hey, if you get this, life is going to be good. If we get this, life is going to be good. Life is full of empty promises. We do have a search engine in all of us. We do, whether you agree with me or not. Maybe you're watching, you're like, Brent, I don't know, I'm a little jaded by this Christianity thing. I'm not so sure. You seem passionate about what you're talking about, but yet, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of information out there. If we don't watch it, we can get jaded and we can go, well, you know what? I do agree maybe that there's a search engine in my soul. I'm looking to fill voids in my life. I'm just not sure what I need. It's hard to imagine this happened 7 years ago. I had this come back up into my mind this week. It was Christmas of 2015. My wife was at home, and it was the week after Thanksgiving. We lived on Old Newport Highway at the time. We had a split-level home, and our kitchen, it was not an open concept. Our kitchen was isolated by itself, and so we had a dinosaur little 19-inch TV, the little 4x3 TV. Y'all remember what I'm talking about? The old dinosaur, and it kind of went on the fritz. Yeah, I agree. It went on the fritz. I like it. Pray for me. I'm going to get spanked. All right. That's not what she said. That's what I heard, but I'm sure she didn't say that. So the TV, my wife's in the room. She'll tell you a true story. The TV went on the fritz. And so my wife said this the week after Thanksgiving. She goes, I would like a new TV for Christmas. And I said, well, maybe Santa will bring you something under the tree. To which my wife goes, no, I kind of want it now. It was a Friday. It was like 4 o'clock. I remember this. We talked about this even this morning. And she goes, I would like it now, Brent. I want to make some Christmas recipes, and I would love to be able to watch it in the kitchen and kind of mimic this. It would be great to do. And I said, okay, so you want me to trek down to Walmart on a Friday at 5 o'clock just for you to get a Christmas present early. She's like, now you're getting it. And so I got in the car. I drove down. It's not this box. The box was a long time ago. I went to the electronics section there at Walmart. You know how great that is, what a wonderful experience it is in the electronics section at Walmart. And I was looking for a 26-inch to a 32-inch TV. We had measured underneath the cabinets, and that would fit, and it would just be kind of a new TV. And Giovanna could make new recipes and spread Christmas cheer and all that stuff, and I was kind of proud of myself. So I went in there, and I was looking for a really clean box. I'm very particular about the electronics in Walmart because I've heard that they tend to pitch the electronics from the truck into the storeroom, and you're like, Brent, shame on you for saying that, but I have a nephew that works for Walmart, and he goes, Brent, we like to pitch electronics from the truck into the storeroom. So I was looking for a clean factory-sealed box. It was very perfect. I thought, this is it. It was cheap, just like it is today. Who knows in the world that we live in? This TV, I think, is $100 today at Walmart. Eggs are $300 for a dozen, but this is, I don't get it. Anyway, so I went and bought a TV. It was a pretty easy, simple transaction. I went home, I opened it, and that's when the weirdness began. 7 years ago, true story, this happened at Christmas. I opened the box, and a stench hit me. It was familiar. It was nasty. It was awful. And I'm like, what is going on? I couldn't compute what was happening, and I opened the box. Some of you remember this story, this priceless sermon illustration. It is truly the gift that keeps on giving. And I just thought about it this week, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I opened the box, and I'm like, something stinks. So I'm like, it was factory sealed. I'm like, what could possibly be? The TV was there, the likes of the styrofoam, everything was perfect. I lift the TV out of the box, I put it down, and then I noticed something at the bottom. And I reached down, and at the bottom of this factory-sealed TV box was a dirty diaper. And it was loaded. I mean, And so I sat there, and I held the diaper in my hands, not computing. I mean, you're like, this did not happen. It had happened. I'm like, what is happening? And then I found myself. It was like this involuntary movement. I just started to... Literally, I just started to open the diaper. And my wife is like, ah! And I drop it like it was anthrax. I went to the kitchen. I triple bagged it, I put it back. I'm like, I didn't put it back in the box. I triple backed it. I threw it away. I'm starting to unpack the TV. And of course, what do you think my wife would say? You take that back right now. I'm like, well, honey, it's not edible here. I mean, it's the TV is fine. She goes, Brent, from now on, this TV is going to get crappy reception. Take it back. So I wrapped it back up, I took it back, I threw the diaper away, which I shouldn't have done because I go down there and I tell them the story and they didn't believe me. I'm like, I'm not lying. And they gave me a $25 gift card for my problems. My sister was so upset. She thought I would own Walmart by the time I walked out of there. So you're like, well, Brent, what does that have to do with Christmas? Well, first off, I got some Christmas presents that I still love and enjoy today. They're in my office. This one was a toilet paper, and it was a gift of toilet paper, and it said, in case you get crap for Christmas. I thought that was, one of y'all gave me that. I thought that was nice. And then somebody gave me this, and I still have it. I love it. Some of you will really love it. Because of that illustration, somebody gave me a working plunger. Listen. The old deer hunter in me goes, man, if it's brown, it's down. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, it is. Then on this one, it says, the poo is through. I thought that was perfect. Oh, that was perfect. To which some of you are like, all right, Brent, get to the point. What the crap does that have to do with Christmas? I don't know. Anyway, that's bad. Here's what I thought, right? I guess I should have turned the box this way. I thought to myself, what a golden illustration in a world that something's off. Something's wrong. Something stinks. Especially you think about this. This is the gift that is the stereotypical gift that people love to get at Christmas time. A gift of a television. I mean, you go to Sam's, you go to Walmart, you go anywhere, TVs are flying out the door. And I thought, wow, what an illustration, what a living analogy of when we look at everything that the world offers, and it's really represented by a TV, it's represented by what we see on that television screen, all the promises that we've been promised by everybody. If you do this, you look like this, you have this, you go there, everything's going to be great. It's full of empty promises. Something stinks about the gift that so many people say these are things that we should get, especially at Christmas time. There's something disposable about Christmas that we find just doesn't smell right. Life is full of so many issues. And I was thinking about that the other day. I was just thinking about that illustration, and I thought about that search engine in all of us. And we're all looking for something, and most of the stuff that the world tells us to look for is going to be in a landfill one day, especially the box and the diaper. And we search for it, we dream about it. Every year it's the same. And I said it a few weeks ago, and I really think this is true. When you look around at all of our lives, including people that would profess any faith at all, there's an anticipation, there's a longing about this time of year that represents an inner search for something. Week 1, we talked about Simeon and Anna searching for comfort and redemption. We look around, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but boy, there's serious economic concerns. There's so much political unrest. There's so much, just you name it, it's out there today. The world shakes. Our hearts cry out for a sure footing, a sure foundation for certainty and uncertain times. We can talk about that a lot. Life brings complications. It brings disappointments. But yet we go back to Christmas, and we go back to the meaning of this time of year, what matters the most, Matthew chapter 1. Verse 23, it'll come on the screen. The virgin will be with child and give birth to a son. We just sang about it a while ago. And he will be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. Christmas is a time for getting. We have received a gift, those of us who choose to accept the free gift of salvation that God brings through his son, Jesus Christ. What a difference. And if we lock in on that perspective, we gain a heart, gain a heart of, hey, God, thank you for what you have done. It brings Christmas to life. It takes away the something stinks part, and it brings about something that fuels our faith and springboards us into another year, a great unknown. So Christmas is about giving. It's about getting. A lot of people today, we would bring back the idea of Christmas presents. Nothing wrong with that. Back to the wise men who brought Jesus 3 gifts. We know this. We read it in the Christmas story last week. If you weren't here last week, you're like, what? You read the Christmas story last week? That's supposed to be next week. I had people mad at me because I read the Christmas story 2 weeks early. I'm like, hey, just mixing it up a little, making sure you're at church. Well, I wasn't here. Well, you can watch it. But we read it in the Christmas story. The wise men brought Jesus 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So which some parents go, you know what, maybe we should be more biblical in our gift giving. Maybe we should only give our kids 3 gifts each. To which teenagers go, well, if the first one is a gold bar, then we're good. But a lot of people would say, hey, you know what, and I kind of thought about this a lot. Somebody brought this out the other day, is giving gifts, the way we're doing it, is it really affecting us when it comes to the Christmas season? And I think the answer can be yes if we fail to give God thanks for the gifts that matter the most. What are those gifts that matter? Is it wrong to give gifts? Of course not, because we give as God gave to us. So really what I'm after this week is a really different angle. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, the Apostle Paul kind of locks in on this giving theme. And for us as Christians, in a world that's kind of crazy, in a world full of empty promises, in a world that something does seem to stink, it seems very disposable, what can we do with friends and family, coworkers, next door neighbors, just the people that we love and know? How do we approach this week? Because many of us are going to spend time with family this week that might not see eye to eye with us, especially spiritually. Maybe not even politically or anything. And it's like, well, how do we navigate this? Some of us are trying to get out of it. Some of us are like, I don't know if I want to deal with that. But yet listen to me, and this sounds weird if you've never heard me say this, but it's true. We are the only Jesus that some people will ever see. If you and I are called Christ followers, are we going to show Christ in a world that is searching for something? They have a search engine in their soul. We're all made with one, and we're trying to fill the voids in our lives. So the Apostle Paul is just going to tie in with this whole theme in Scripture that, hey, God has given us so much. What are we supposed to be doing with that gift that we've been given? And here's what he says. It's interesting. Let's just read it and unpack it for a minute. 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 7 and 8. The Apostle Paul talking to the church of Corinth. Just as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in your love for us, see that you also excel in this grace of giving. I'm not commanding you, and this is an interesting thing, but I want to test the sincerity of your love by comparing it with the earnestness of others. What do I think that means? As I research that and I kind of go back and forth with that, is there a difference in our lives versus everybody else? Now, some of you are like, Brent, are you going to talk about church giving? No, I'm not talking about what you put in the offering. The Apostle Paul's like, listen, the church of Corinth, here we go, ready? They were fragile. They were known for a lot of good things, but they were fragile in their faith. They lived in a society full of idolatry and immorality. That's us. We live in the same society. We all struggle in our Christian faith. Many of us do. We struggle to let it match our lifestyle because we live in a world that, boy, everything is touted, but walking this path called faith, the one thing that matters. And the Apostle Paul says, listen, I want you to test the sincerity of your faith by your giving. Are you and I different than anybody else? What are we obsessed over? What are we thinking about? What matters to us? And I think it's interesting. First off, the Corinth believers, we got to shout them out. They had faith, they had speech, they had knowledge. We have all of that. We have more knowledge in our fingertips with our technology. If you want to know anything about everything, we know it, especially about the Bible. We can resource, we can research, we can know anything and everything we want to. There's all kinds of books and podcasts and sermons. Plus, you have a pretty decent preacher that you can come every week and hear. Thank you for being quiet like birds chirping in the back. Appreciate that. You and I have love. We have love for each other. We have more love for strangers than we do our family. Some of you are all about going to get gifts off that tree because you know there was a needy child or teenager that needed something. But yet, we struggle to see eye to eye with family. The earnestness, that word earnestness is sincere or true conviction about what matters. And so giving is a natural response to love. Paul stressed that gifts should be voluntary and motivated by love. So we can apply that lesson not just at Christmas, but boy, it's an easy thing to do this Christmas. If we get it right, it springs us into so much more. To focus on what matters, it starts with Isaiah chapter 9. We go back to that verse of Scripture because it brings it home why we do what we do. For a child is born to us, a son is given. Everybody say the word given. God gave us His Son. So giving is a natural reflection of who He is. It's a natural expression of gratitude that we have for Him. James chapter 1, verse 17, I love this verse of Scripture. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. It's something that's constant, something that's needed, something that stands the test of time. It's not just here today and gone tomorrow. So I think about this often. Jesus would be born. We celebrate that this time of year, and then He becomes a man. His earthly ministry begins, and we know this in Scripture if you read the Gospels. And of course, it's God's Son. This is Emmanuel, God with us. The Creator of all things would walk the earth for us. And we know that people were drawn to Him. Why were people drawn to Him? Well, number one, He talked about eternal things. Everybody wants to know what's going on the other side of the grave. Jesus would talk about eternal things and the hope that you could have. He would be a man who spoke truth. He would do it in love, but He would speak truth in a world where all we hear is empty promises from most of our leaders. We don't know what's true, what's not true. We don't know what's misinformation or disinformation. That's our world. That's our catchphrase. We have no idea what's true. But Jesus would speak truth, and people are drawn to the truth. And mostly He was a man of love. He loved on another level. He loved you no matter your skin color or how much money you had or which side of the tracks you were born on. He was a friend of the irreligious and the unchurched. People would welcome Him into their home, and He would invite tax collectors and prostitutes, people of the lowest of low, people who messed up their lives, but Jesus would come that all might have hope and could have redemption. And you're like, well, Brent, that's Jesus. But you and I are called to be Christ-like. I know I don't have that in me, but I want to make sure that today is less of me and more of Him, and tomorrow is less of me and more of Him. And you know what? This week, when we go into our families, and my wife and I are just like everybody, we're going to spend some time with her family, and there's not all of her family that see eye to eye. All of her family are not Christians. You know that. I've told you that. And these are moments that I can go down there and I can just kind of, whatever. They don't. But can we go and can we, have moments to speak truth? And can we have moments to speak love? Can we lead the way with our compassion and our generosity? Can we meet them where they are? Not lowering our standards, because Jesus sure never did that. But just to be love. Maybe that's the gift that people are searching for that we can't buy at Best Buy. And I think that's my concern, and I've said that as a church. I'll say that, especially coming out of the last few years and things have changed. Where are we when it comes to just, you know what, when we talk about the grace of giving, I'm not talking about what we give in church. We're great at that. We make a difference. We do things together we cannot do on our own. I love that. That's what it's all about, for us to make a difference in the community. But one-on-one, family members, co-workers, next-door neighbors, schoolmates, do people see a difference in us? Is there earnestness in us that is different than everyone else? I sometimes wonder. And here's what I know, and I just kind of want to put it on you, and it'll come on the screen, and I think it's true. People are lost, but they're still looking for something. Some of you might be mind blown by this, but Jesus talked a lot about sin in the Gospels, but He talked about something more than He talked about sin. He talked about lostness more than sinfulness. If you read the Gospels and you hear what He says, He's going to talk about being lost more than being sinful. And I think, man, that is so genius of God, because most of us, let's take a little kind of survey here. Most of us will go, you know what? There's been a lot of times in my life, I'll admit that I jacked up my life. I'm a sinner. I screwed up. I made a mistake. Boy, I really just did not do what I know I should be doing. Let's see some hands if you'll admit that you were a sinner at one time in your life. All right. Most of us will admit that, but very few of us will go, you know what? I'm just lost. We don't do that well. Men don't do that well. Before GPS, when I moved here 27 years ago, Javon and I mean, we moved from Florida where it was kind of gridded off into avenues and streets, and you can easily find stuff. You come here, you get in the back roads of East Tennessee, baby, I mean, you're lost. And my wife would be like, Brent, just pull over. You're lost. I'm like, I'm not lost. I'll figure it out. And you pray to God there's a gas station. You pull in. I've got to go to the bathroom. You go in there. Where are we? We don't like to admit that. We don't like to admit that we're directionally challenged. Some of us are. We're lost. And I wonder why that is. And here's what I'll say. People are lost, but they're searching for something. Yet there's this gift that God has given that many people don't accept. Not because they don't need it. Boy, they desperately need the gift of salvation. Is because we're mesmerized by all the glitz, I'll use that word, and glamour of our culture that puts all this stuff in front of our faces every single day that tells us, promises us, if you get this, if you grab that, everything's going to be awesome, but we still can't find what we're looking for. People are distracted more than ever, and if we don't step up and show the love of God and have moments to give the gift of, hey, you know what? I just want to have a conversation. I want to be able to show God's love. I want something in my life to draw you to Christ. Do we think that in this day and age? Because people are distracted with stuff that doesn't matter. Case in point, my daughter will come on the screen. Her picture, she was 7 years old at the time. I think she was in one of our church programs, either Christmas or Easter. She was around 7. My son wasn't born yet. We were opening Christmas, our presents, and I have a tradition. My wife hates this tradition, but I like this tradition, that my kids can open a gift. They can pick one gift under the tree Christmas Eve, no matter what it is. If they pick it, they get to open it. It could be their big gift. Giovanna hates that. But I'm like, I love that, let's do that. So for years, I like to head fake my kids. When my daughter was 7, she was into Christmas hook, line, and sinker. She was excited. She kept telling me for days, Dad, I can't wait. I know I'm gonna open my big gift Christmas Eve. So I went down to Cash Hardware. I think it was Cash Hardware. Went back there. I talked to the guy. They gave me a washing machine box. So I took the washing machine box home. I grabbed a couple of cinder blocks. I put the cinder blocks in the bottom of the washing machine box. I threw her Christmas PJs in the bottom of that box. I wrapped it up. I put this big box right there in front of the tree. And Miranda, 7, she couldn't lift it with the cinder blocks. She's just like, and I'm like, Miranda, whatever gift you want to open, girl, you get to make that call. What gift do you think she wanted to open right away? Her good gift, I forgot what it was. We all have the good gift. It was way back under the tree. But this was right here. She's like, it's a swing set. It's something. I don't know where she was all over the place. It's battery-powered car. Whatever. She opened it up. Giovanna was happy. I was happy. Miranda was miserable. God bless us, everyone, right? What a great Christmas Eve. Why? She was distracted. What was right in her face. If we don't project Christ, I promise you the culture is going to distract everybody. And everything's going to be full of empty promises. But the thing that matters the most. You know this, right? You might not, you need to. In your lifetime, not my lifetime, your lifetime, positively or negatively, you're going to affect around 10,000 people in your world of influence, in your lifetime. You're like, no, that's an average. People were drawn to Jesus. I wonder if people are drawn to us. Are they attracted to you and me? I ask myself that question all the time. Do they see a supernatural power in my life and in your life? When those pressure situations happen at work, people are waiting to see how we'll react. Do we just live our lives and do what everybody else does every single day, or is there something different in us? And just know every time we lock eyes with somebody, we're locking eyes with someone who matters to God. Either if they're irreligious, if they're unchurched, it doesn't matter. They matter to God. What we speak begins with what we believe. If you're a peaceful person, you and I will speak peace. If we're people in agony in our heart, we'll speak pain. If we're truly grateful, we'll give thanks. It will come naturally and easily. The quality of our thoughts affects what we feel and how we handle life. I don't think we realize how important we are when it comes to making a difference in people's lives. We give because God gives. We give because God gave. We're going to close. I'm going to go back in the time machine, back to 1980 for a minute. Good times. Woo! Love the 80s. There's a song that came out. It was a Christian song. It was an anthem for Christmas for years in the 80s. I actually grew up singing it. My family grew up singing it. I remember the last time I sang this song, I had my cassette. Y'all remember cassettes? It was a track. You gave it to the guy up in the sound booth at church, and here's my cassette, and put it in, and I would sing this song at 17. It was the last time I think I sang this song. It was 1987. I was called in the ministry that year, and I'll just never forget how much this song affected me. And I thought about it. I thought about it this week. My wife and I took Livy down to Pigeon Forge between the island and LeConte Center, and there's that walkway on the river. And that's how I thought about that, by the way. We had to change Livy's diaper. Grandparents, we get to change diapers again. It's kind of the natural evolution of life, you know. We change kids' diapers, now we change grandparents' diapers, and Joanna get older, we'll change each other's diapers, right? I mean, that's the natural evolution of life. And so we're out there, we lift up the tailgate of the car, people are driving by, grandma and grandpa are changing diapers, and I'm like so embarrassed. Joanna's like, it won't matter, and they're just driving. What are they doing out there with that little... And I thought about Livy, and I thought about all these people, and there were people that were all over the place. And we took Livy, and we walked all the way through the island, and people were the hustle and bustle. It was kind of really just a cool little Christmas moment for Gigi and Papa and Livy. And I started to think about all the things that I was going to talk about this week, and just how so many of us have been bought into all this stuff that doesn't really matter. It's here today and gone tomorrow. It's in the landfill of our lives. But yet we're the reason that God gave his life. We're the reason that Jesus came and suffered and died to a world that was lost. God gave all he could give to show you and I, everyone, the reason to truly live. And I wonder how many people just don't experience that. So for us, it's a perfect time to invite this next week. It's a perfect time to be here, to be thankful. So I wanted to close this week with something inspirational. I just want you to stop, and I want you to listen to Scott, Scott's incredible. What a singer. We're so blessed. What a person of great just passion, authenticity, but just next level. And this song takes me way back to that teenage Brent, full of wonder, to listen to this song for the first time, to think, wow, God, do you love me that much? You love me that much. And at 17, I gave my life. I was called into the ministry. And God says, Brent, go share that love with as many people that will listen as possible. And I'm still doing that all these years later, but you are the greatest minister that this church and this community will ever know. Are we showing the love of God? Even to people that we don't love, like Brent, I don't know. Are we allowing the love of Christ to shine through us? Something to think about, especially at Christmas. God, be with us as we close this service. Be in this moment. Just let it inspire us to walk out the doors and go, wow, God, you love me more than I love myself. I'm so thankful for all that you've done. God, we give because you give. We give because you gave. Allow that to be the reason that we all look to and live for in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.